I need a new work table for my garage, and my friends over at VEVOR sent this one over for me to test and review. And I do, of course, have to assemble it. And I've gone ahead and unboxed everything, laid it out, and we'll explain all the parts, and then we'll start putting this table together, and then I'll explain what I'm going to do with it.
This video is sponsored by Cruiseman's Garage Honda Goldwing Maintenance Video Series.
So let's take a look at everything that came in this box. It came in a pretty large box, and I was a little concerned because this box had a pretty big gash in it when it arrived, but I don't see any visible damage to the parts. Now this table is stainless steel, and all of the parts here come in a bag. There were 2 extra screws, these little small, I think they're 5mm heads on these hex screws. I think there were 2 extra ones that were not in the bag. They just kind of thrown into the larger bag. And so these are the parts that come in the kit. I'll put a picture on the screen explaining what everything is. And then these are the legs. Now I do see that one of the legs has a small dent in it. I don't think that's supposed to be there. It's not a major thing. I doubt it'll even show, but I just thought I'd point that out. Of course, we have 4 casters, and we'll have to put these legs, join these legs together. Now the tabletop itself does have some scratches in it already. It does have some plastic protection, but not all the way edge to edge. I wish VEVOR would put that protective plastic edge to edge, because the stainless steel is very susceptible to scratching. So I'm not sure if you can see some of those little fine scratches there. Now, it's not a big deal because this is going to be a work table, so it's probably going to get scratched up anyway. I may end up covering it. I may end up using like a vinyl wrap material and to protect it, and just cover it with vinyl, and also make it a little bit more maybe non-stick, so or non-slip, I should say. So let's start putting this thing together. They do give you some nice instructions that are pretty well written, I think, pretty easy to understand. It's mostly pictures, but it's not it doesn't look too complicated. I think we can figure this out. So let's start putting it together. Let's take a quick look at everything that's supposed to be in the hardware bag of the VEVOR work table. Now, there were 13 screws, these little 5mm, the shorter screws. These are for attaching the legs to the tabletop itself. You only actually need 12. Mine came with 13. Interestingly, 2 of the 13 were not in the hardware bag. They were in the main bag with the tabletop itself. I'm not sure why that happens. Maybe VEVOR recognized that there was a shortage in the bag and they just decided to throw a couple extra in. I don't know. As far as the longer screws, which are actually used to attach the middle shelf or the lower shelf to the legs, those longer screws, there were 5 included in my kit, as well as 5 corresponding lock nuts, and you only need 4, so they included 1 extra. And then of course you get the 5mm Allen wrench shown at the top, 4 of these corner braces that are used to mount the legs to the tabletop itself, and then there are 4 of these other little, I don't know what you call these little spring clips that attach to the outside of the legs. They basically keep tension, and they keep those bolts from denting or bending the legs in. By the way, after I get this table put together, if you're interested in it, I'll put a link in the description down below. And also this chair, this rolling garage chair, I've been using for years. I got that from VEVOR also, and I absolutely love it. Yeah, this is the bottom, this is the top, and they just fit together like that to make a leg. I'm going to go ahead and put them together, and I'll figure it out here in a little bit.
The bottom half of each leg has a nylon cap and a hole in the center with threads for the casters.
Okay, now we're just going to put these into the tabletop. So let me grab the top of the table and turn it upside down so we can work on it. I'm actually going to work on this box because it'll protect this from the garage floor. That way it won't get any more scratch than it already is. This is the shelf. We'll deal with that here in a little bit. And then this is the tabletop. And it's pretty heavy duty. It feels solid. So to attach the legs, turn it upside down like that. Why do I struggle with the simplest things? I think these go in like this, but these holes in the legs, since we're going to attach the shelves to them, and maybe you can still spin these legs once they've been installed. Does that go on there? I think this goes, and I guess once they're installed, you can still turn these to get these holes to line up to put the bottom shelf in. Okay, then we're going to use some of these small, and they do give you a little wrench, by the way, this little Allen wrench, which is nice. And we've got 3 in each leg. So let's go ahead and put these in. We can do it. We can always take it apart and try again if I screw something up. It wouldn't be Cruiseman's Garage video if I didn't screw up something on camera. You know what though? I'm going to get my own wrench.
Place the brace over the top of the leg with the little flange facing down. Now the table's upside down, so really right now it looks like it's facing up, but once the table is upright, that little flange will be facing down. And then go ahead and insert the 5mm Allen screws. They're actually M8 8mm screws, but they have a 5mm head. Now you can use the Allen wrench that comes with the table, or I'm just using my own 5mm Allen wrench to tighten each of these screws. With the 4 legs attached, this is what the table should look like at this point.
As I was looking at the last page of the manual, I want you to pronounce the name of that manufacturer. Anybody, if anybody out there can pronounce that, please let me know. Okay, now it's time to install this shelf. And I think I've got to have these turned so that these holes are kind of at a 45-degree angle, kind of aiming toward each other from each corner, I think, because of the way this shelf is going to fit in there. Now this little shelf basically is very light, and it just sits in here like this. I guess I get to decide how high I want it. I think I'm going to keep it right in the middle. It would actually help to have a helper, somebody else to hold it while you insert all the hardware. I'm going to try to do it by myself because there's a long bolt here, and then there are some nuts, which I will go ahead and put in here. And then you've got these little braces that go on the outside of the leg, and it looks like they kind of bend and conform to the metal. Let's see if I can figure out how to get these in. I think if I can get 2 of them in, This thing will hold. Put all my hardware in here on the bottom of the tray. Might make it a little easier. I'm trying to show you how to do this as a one-man operation without having to have a helper. So let's see if I can't get this bolt to go in. I'm going to go ahead and put it right there. Maybe I'll just do that all the way around. I'll go ahead and just kind of stick that bolt through this brace and just let it kind of hang. And that way, when I put the shelf in, I can just pop the bolts in and secure it. That looks like maybe it might work. We'll try it and see. Again, if you have a helper, it would be nice because they can sort of hold this in place while you're doing it. You've got these little outer braces, and the bolt is just kind of hanging in those holes right now, all the way around. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to lift this shelf up and start inserting those bolts one at a time. You can see the bolts are going to go through this little hole here, and then on the back side we'll install these nuts, which are basically, I think, they're not actually, they're kind of a lock nut, a little bit of a lock nut. Okay, let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, fortunately this little shelf doesn't weigh anything, it's real light. So I'm going to put it in the second position here and insert this bolt, get it through that second hole. Ah, there we go. Yeah, it's sort of in there. Okay, those two are sort of in. I'm going to go ahead and put a nut on there. What I'm going to do is step on this bottom, kind of hold this in position with my knee and see if I can't get a thread. I just need a couple of threads started on that bolt. But I did get that nut started. Now let me get the opposite corner, because that way I think it'll hold itself up. You can do it by yourself. It's just not as easy. There we go. Get a little, just to need a few threads, just enough to keep it from falling out. Okay, got that one started. Now it's going to be a little easier to get the other two in where they need to be. So as you can see, it's not even lined up, so we have to kind of massage it a little bit. These legs are flexible enough that you can kind of move them around to get everything where it needs to be to get that bolt to go through that hole. And I'm just going to kind of hold it there while I get that nut just started. Fortunately, these are slotted holes, so it gives you a little bit of play. So you can do it by yourself. Be easier if you had a helper, but it's not necessary. Okay, let me grab a wrench for this. And this is also a 5mm. I think it's a 12mm, but I'm not sure. Is that 12? It is. Man, good guess. Okay, so we'll start tightening these up. I don't want to over tighten these because I'm not sure that if you crank down on this really, really hard, even though you've got this little brace here, I'm thinking you could maybe dent the side of these legs. They're not super thick walls, so, and I don't think they need to be that tight anyway. This thing feels pretty solid the way it is right now. So I would caution you not to over tighten these bolts and nuts, because I don't want to crush and dent and bend that metal of that leg. Okay, this comes with 4 casters, and they feel pretty well made. I think these look pretty good casters, and they do screw in, and they 2 of them have these little locks. So I'm going to put the 2 with the locks over here on this side, and then I'll put the other 2. I don't think it matters, obviously, which side they go in. Oh, wait. There is kind of a nut that you can tighten. I don't know if you can get access to it, is the only thing. I think I'm just going to tighten this by hand. If you hear some noise in the background, it's the trash truck picking up our garbage today. Apologize for the extra noise. Of course, you could always replace these with larger diameter casters if you, for some reason, needed it. I don't think I'm going to need it. These look pretty good. They seem pretty, good ball bearings, and they seem to be adequate for my purposes. I'm using my vice grip from Irwin, and I can grab that edge and just twist it on a little tighter. And I'll do that on all 4 of these. So this is the hardware I had left over. One of the smaller screws, one of the longer bolts, and one of the nuts. So I did get some extra hardware in my kit. Okay, let's turn this table over and get it up on the casters and see what it looks like. See if I can do it without scratching it. Lock down those casters on one side if I need to lock it. Now it'll still roll, but it's more or less locked. You can't really move it. Okay, so now let's take a closer look at this work table. It's a 36 by 24 inch work table from VEVOR. And I'll show you what I'm planning to use it for, and I'll go over and kind of review what I think the quality and the condition is of the table, and kind of tell you what I think about it and how I plan to use it. So as you can see, I've got some of my cleaning products here. I'm always needing access to these things while I'm either waxing, polishing the car or the motorcycle. And I've been wanting a table for the garage where I can do that. Now they make specific tables for garages or carts usually, and they would work fine. What I like about this, I like the fact that it's stainless steel. It's a little more of a multi-purpose table. I could actually take this in the house and use it in the kitchen if I needed to. Probably going to leave it in the garage. Now you'll notice on the shelf down below, I have my power unit, my power battery supply, which I use to power my polishers or other tools. If I'm doing work on the motorcycle, I can put tools on here and I can easily get access to tools that I need to use. So I think it's going to be a very, very handy addition to the garage. Now this table is really designed for restaurant use. It's kind of a prep table for a restaurant, so it's not really designed for use in a garage, but when I saw it online, I thought, man, that might be perfect for what I need. Okay, what do I like about it? What about the condition? What about the quality? Let's take a little closer look. The first thing is it comes with this protective cover, kind of a little sheet of thin plastic or vinyl to protect the majority of this stainless steel finish, but they didn't take it all the way to the edge. And you can see some scratches where they did not put this protected. I have not removed this yet, so I don't know what it looks like underneath, but the areas that are not protected do have some fine scratches. The quality, I would say, is medium to medium high. It's not super heavy duty. I'd say it's medium to light duty. You wouldn't want to put something too heavy. It says it'll hold 400 pounds, but I don't know if I'd want to put that to the test. But it feels good enough. The power supply sits down there fine. The casters, I like the fact that it has the 2 locking casters. I may end up replacing the other 2 with locking casters just because I don't want to accidentally bump this and have one of these sharp corners, crash into my car or my motorcycle and, cause an issue. So if I had 2 more locking casters, that would solve that problem. I may do that. They look to be standard thread size casters. As far as the bottom shelf, it's definitely what I would call lighter duty. It's not real heavy duty, but it is holding that power supply, that battery. So that's good. I'll put the ratings on the screen, what they rate this table for as far as weight. Now, if I unlock these casters, but you see, even with them locked, I can move these other 2 because they still will roll. And I can just see me bumping that accidentally and it hitting the side of my car. So I'm going to have a way of securing those 2 casters with locks like these have right here. If I unlock these, this thing rolls very easily. I actually think it's a little more stable with that heavy power supply on the bottom shelf. That adds a lot of weight. As far as the other condition, I noticed the logo, the VEVOR logo up here is kind of messed up, which I found interesting. Since that is their brand, I would think they'd want that to look nice, but it looks kind of smeared, like they didn't put the label on straight. So I'd say the quality control it's okay. You got to remember, this thing is about $99. It's very inexpensive for a stainless steel work table. You could probably spend $300 or $400 on a comparable table this size. I think for light duty, medium duty, this is a good option. It's going to work good for what I need it to do out here in the garage. Anyway, this is the 36 by 24 inch work table from VEVOR. And if you're interested in this or something like this, I'll put a link in the description down below and you can check it out on their website. I also have, I think it has a little discount code for you. Thanks for joining me today on Cruiseman's Garage. If you enjoyed the video, do a favor, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next Cruiseman's Review.